Hi everyone, this is Callie. Thanks so much for being here with me today. If you love using embossing folders and want new ways to use them, I hope you'll enjoy this video. I'm using the new Sunflower Field embossing folder. This is new from the Let's Chill release, and it's got beautiful, intricate details. Another thing that's super exciting about these new embossing folders is some of them come with coordinating dies. So this die here will cut out a single sunflower. So you can do spotlight die cutting with that, or you can also die cut it just for the actual flower and create a card using those die cut flowers only. So if you're unfamiliar, the spotlight technique draws color or intensity to a certain area on your card or background with color or simply by die cutting. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to emboss this beautiful sunflower field background and we're going to ink it up. I'm going to interrupt my train of thought here to introduce you to the detail blending brushes from Simon Says Stamp. So we have large and small brushes, and now we have these detail blending brushes. There's some flat ones in the back there, and then round ones that I've stored in the front in the Simon Says Stamp caddy. And I love that caddy because I feel like the silicone in it is a little bit thicker. Everything is a little sturdier and holds a little bit better in there. So that's my favorite. So now we're blending with lemonade ink, and I'm just going to use that detail blending brush to just blend all over around all the petals. It does not need to be perfect, and it does not need to be one fluid saturation. You can make a few areas darker or lighter. It does not need to be perfect. And then I'm going to go in with an orange. This is cantaloupe ink, and I'll just go around towards the inner parts of the petals just to give that a little bit more detail and interest. So back to spotlight, you're going to draw attention to one area of your card. So for this background, I have sunflowers everywhere. They're all the same colors. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a large die cut sentiment, and I'm going to draw attention to that sentiment. So this is spotlight die cutting. Moving on to the flower centers here, we have cappuccino ink. I'm going to use my brown blending brush, and I'll just add in circular motions ink to the centers. And it's okay again if it bleeds out just a little bit into the petals, creates a little bit more shadow, and it's really not a problem. When I'm done ink blending, the background still looks really soft, so I want to add a bit more detail to it. So I'm going to draw in 2 Copic markers to dot in the centers of the sunflowers to kind of imitate seeds, and that will give my card a little bit more pop. So what I'm going to do here is use the E37 marker. This is the darker of the 2 markers that I'm going to be using, and I'm just dotting around the edges of the flower centers as well as a ring at the center of the flowers. So I'm going to repeat this process across the entire panel. And I know in the end we're going to be using a white frame and a lot of it's going to be covered up, but that's okay. It is a downside to not planning out my card ahead of time, but we're just going to go with it. When I'm done with the darker color, I'm going to do the exact same thing with the lighter color. This creates a little bit more detail, but it also softens that really dark brown and then adds a few lighter details as well with the dotting all the way around. For the sentiment, I'm using this You Mean the World to Me die. I love this die. I love the way the letters are not on a straight line. It just creates some extra interest. So we are going to do some spotlight, and this time, like I said, you draw color or intensify color to a certain area, right? So I die cut this in yellow for the base, and I'm going to put it back in my embossing folder because that embossed image is exactly an A2 sized area. I can go ahead and center that sentiment that was die cut in there perfectly where I want that die cut to be. So now I'm just going to skip the lemonade ink since my cardstock is already yellow, and I'm going to use only the cantaloupe ink, and I'm going to ink blend a little bit darker as well as the brown. And it might be hard for you to tell, but since the paper is in front of me, I can see the details from the petals as well as the sunflower centers. So it's not too hard to pinpoint where to add the colors. So when I'm done with this, I'm going to go ahead and add some more details using the Copic markers. We're kind of mimicking what we did on the background, except with more intensity and with darker colors. And this is going to create that spotlight look that I'm going for. Okay, so now that I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and place it right over that sunflower field background. And as you can see, it kind of blends in a little bit too much. I want to intensify it a little bit more. So here we go again for round 2 of inking, and I'm just going to use that cantaloupe ink and just darken all of the petals. I don't have to do too much more, just a little bit more to create a bit more color. And this looks a lot better to me. All right, so we are gonna go ahead and create a frame now. You can definitely leave it like that. And I kind of wish that I would have, but you know, again, I don't plan out my cards. So here we go. I'm gonna use this nested oval die, and I'm gonna die cut a white frame to go over that. So we're spotlighting that background as well as the sentiment. That way we can draw more attention to the center of the card. Creates more focus, so you can definitely leave this part out if you don't like it. And then to intensify that spotlight, I'm going to create a drop shadow with a second layer to that sentiment using some black cardstock. I'm going to go ahead and adhere the frame to my background. That way it has plenty of time to dry and set. And I'm going to add an acrylic block on the top of that just to make sure that the raised edges on that sunflower field background will catch to that window frame that I'm adding. And while that is drying, I'm going to go ahead and add that drop shadow piece to my sentiment. I'm offsetting it just a tad so that you can kind of see the sentiment better once it's added to my card. So you can add it directly down, but I want to create more dimension. So I've added little slivers of foam tape on the back, and then I'm going to layer that right over the top in the center of that window. And as you can see, you have this wonderful detail, but then you also get this spotlight sentiment that's a little bit darker, and you can still see the sentiment, but it kind of blends in with the background. Very cool technique. And last but not least, I'm going to be adding some jewels or pearls. These are the Trinity Stance Bubble Blowouts. And then last but not least, we'll add that to a top folding card base and make sure that it's all straightened out. And we have our finished card. I really hope you enjoyed this technique. If you're interested in the products that were used for today's card, be sure to check out the links in the descriptions below and on the blog post, as everything will be linked for your convenience. I appreciate you stopping by and spending some of your time with me. If you enjoyed this, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. I'm going to link 2 more videos at the end here for you to watch if you're interested in seeing more. Otherwise, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.